It's not a courtroom exactly, Selena, but in one sense it is, because the senators are absolutely making judgments on all of these tech companies.
Right. What's really sticking out here is that there's an empty chair next to Jack Dorsey and Sheryl Sandberg, and the lawmakers really started their opening statements by criticizing Google for failing to send their top-level executive. Now, Jack Dorsey and Sheryl Sandberg really started out with a very conciliatory tone, apologizing for not recognizing Russian misinformation efforts earlier during the 2016 elections. Now, the questions from the senators have been far more prepared than in previous hearings. They've also been more specific, more targeted, and we're actually seeing Jack Dorsey do a surprisingly good job. He did mention in his opening statements that he has a very shy personality. He isn't used to speaking these types of forums, and he even read his notes off of his iPhone, which is pretty unusual for a Senate hearing.
Although they did enter together and shoulder to shoulder, it was pretty amazing to see the pictures. They're obviously, working together, coordinating on this, even if everything they said didn't exactly jibe one with the other. Twitter right now, Selena, is down 4.75%. Facebook is down about 2%, as is Google's parent, Alphabet. It's not doing the stocks any good to have these hearings taking place.
Absolutely. There's certainly some investor concern here that after these hearings there could be some onerous regulation. I think with Twitter we saw it fall pretty significantly because of some comments Jack Dorsey said about how the results of these hearings and how that they decide the best way to combat misinformation, automated accounts, it could result in massive shifts in how the company fundamentally works, and it could change the incentives of users on the platform as well as its core business and how it operates. And that could also impact user growth. If they are, in fact, labeling all the bot accounts, it could make their monthly active user number look far lower. And all of this leads to investor fear that there's just a lot of uncertainty about what the future monetization of these platforms could look like.
But Selena, hasn't Jack Dorsey and to a certain extent Facebook as well sort of addressed this issue, basically saying that user growth would be impacted by these changes? I seem to remember that coming up on the most recent earnings calls.
That's true. It's not the first time that these companies have addressed this, but nonetheless, it still continues to spook investors. We saw after Twitter's most recent quarterly earnings report that their monthly active user growth actually declined as a result of some of their efforts to root out these fake accounts, automated accounts, and even though they had warned investors that it was because of these efforts that would help the company in the long term to clean up its platform and increase trust between users, it still caused its shares to dramatically fall.
Selena, there's so much talk between these two companies, Facebook and Twitter, about democracy, free speech, the First Amendment. Twitter talks about it being a public square in digital form. Sheryl Sandberg opened her comments by saying that, Facebook could be a force for democracy. Is this one of the reasons why Google is not here today, or why Google would have sent somebody that the committee wasn't interested in hearing from? Is Google trying to distance itself in some ways from this kind of rhetoric?
I think you make a really interesting point there. We did see Google do a very good job up until now of staying out of the fray and staying out of all the criticism that hit Facebook and Twitter as a result of the 2016 Russian meddling. That being said, it's unclear why Google has failed to send anyone else beside Kent Walker, but he did submit a written testimony that touched on many of the issues that the senators are asking about today. Google is emphasizing that it's really increasing and improving its security around elections and campaigns on the platform. And that it's stopping phishing attempts, security breaches. So they have put out a written testimony, but no representative sitting there today.